Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I'll Start on Monday. I'm your host, Yayoi Komiyama of Brain to Belly, and today I have a special guest, reoccurring guest. She will be reoccurring often. Um, my my very good friend and fellow coach, Cindy Gould, is here with us today, and she was on one of our earlier episodes, and today I wanted her to talk about more of her story on what as it relates to I'll start on Monday, but, as it relates to her health and her weight history. So, because I thought it would be very, very relevant, especially since we've been talking about this a lot in the last few episodes. I think it would be very beneficial to get another opinion and another insights into how people have handled all this. So, welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes,
So
and congratulations again on such a great start.
Oh, I love doing this, and it's just to me, the why is so important, right? Because it's just getting the message out to people that, there are others that have gone through the same things, and there are ways to handle it. Although, the ways can be different as there are many different people and different situations. So each person's slightly different, so I want them to find it through that and find what's gonna work for them because each person is going to be different and they have to find their own way. One
Sure.
size doesn't really fit all, so, yeah, and you know that.
I do
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
for
So
sure.
so Cindy, could you tell us a little bit about your I know you've released 130 pounds since your heaviest, and, I know that there was a lot of trauma involved in that as well, and I'd like for the listeners to find out a little bit more about your story on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you were talking, I was thinking back to when was the first time I actually went on a diet? I mean, I was thinking about that. And I remember this has nothing to do with it's actually 135 pounds, which I know every ounce and pound counts, right? When you're working hard at those things. But I remember being, golly, I had to be like 12, and we lived in Utah, and back then, there weren't any ethnic, like, our family was the ethnic, and in our school even, there was nobody. I mean, golly, the one, Hispanic family, they were Spain Spanish, so they were light skinned with blue. It's like there was,
Totally
you know,
get
and
it. Yep.
and there was, yeah, and there was, like, Farrah Fawcett time, and so I didn't fit in, and right now my hair's blown out, but typically I have, like, tons of curls, and Hawaiian, Sicilian, so I have tons of curls, and it's interesting because I remember, and I was a gymnast, so I was, like, in stellar shape, but I still felt like to fit in because I had a curvier body, and I didn't have an ounce of fat. Like, I was a gymnast, like, and I was seriously in perfect shape. It's funny because have you ever looked at pictures and looked at them and said, "Oh gosh, back then I thought I was, like, huge or something," and
Yes.
you look and you're like, "I look freaking awesome."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe me, I know. Because
Right?
that image in your head, and like you were
Mhm.
saying, when you think that when your mind tells you that you're heavy and that
Right,
image in your head is the heavy you, that's
right,
all you're going to see.
right,
And it's funny how we know because we're both neuroencoders, but
right.
our brain plays so many tricks on us if we don't feed it the right information or if we don't
100%,
adjust it.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
I know back then, so what was interesting is I think back to then because all the girls were just these little wafy, like, skinny Bones Jones, kids, and I wasn't. I mean, and I seriously was working out every day, doing all the things, but I had this beautiful body. I didn't realize it then, but I remember starting to drink, protein shakes back then, and eating more vegetables, which, my mom had this breathtaking garden, and but we ate meat and all that stuff too, but I'm just saying, and I thought, "Huh," and what was my reason? Because I didn't feel like I belonged, and at the end of the day, as we know, the toxic 10 tribe, our toxic tribe,
Yes.
one of the biggest fears is, of course, fear of rejection, and I put abandonment in that because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be loved, right? And that was really the reasoning. Well, fast forward to, you know, it was around 2008, yeah, 2008, I wanna say. Anyway, married, and I already having, bear in mind, grandchildren, and I know, right? And I found myself pregnant in that stage of my life, which, how interesting that that even happened, birth control, all of it, and I was pregnant. So, um, obviously nothing that I was expecting. And yet, you get excited and you do all this stuff and you're like, "Okay, great. Now I'm pregnant," and then fast forward to, being almost 6 months pregnant and then having a miscarriage. Now that was the second time. 20 years before that, I had had the same experience or similar experience, 6 months and pregnant and lost the baby who's anencephalic. So, here's the thing with that. I didn't realize, obviously, I mean, I was working, I was, had a busy family life, everything else, and I did not grieve that. There's not, I would say properly, but there's not really proper. I didn't make the time to grieve. I just stuffed the sadness in different catacombs in my being, right?
Yes.
It just
Yes.
kept rocking and rolling forward.
Yes.
Well, as I did that, we went from before being pregnant, going to the gym twice a day early in the morning, like at 5 in the morning, and then after we ate dinner, we'd go hit the gym, and to me just not even working out, and then, Nachos Belgrande were my friend and, like just what right? I'm more of a savory girl than a
Right.
sweet tooth, and so but it was more that I wasn't moving my body and I was just horribly sad,
Yeah.
you know? And so as I went through those few years, no matter what I did, I noticed I was, gaining weight, gaining weight, gaining weight, and it wasn't going in the other direction, or I would, "Okay, I'm gonna do protein shakes," or, oh my gosh, what is that guy's name, the juicer? Was it Jared the juicer? Anyway, I remember that guy that was and I would then I went through this whole thing. It's a lot to juice, holy cow.
Oh,
Bought the
yeah.
juicer, I bought, like, like a horse trailer of carrots and, beets. I don't even do beets and all this stuff, and every morning, that noise
Yeah.
juicing, and
Yeah.
you gotta clean the thing out, I
Oh,
did
yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
I did a 21-day water and juice fast, released 18 pounds, ate a very minimal clean meal the next day, just to start going back into
Back to
food,
right.
and gained weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "What the Judd? How does that happen?" Right? So then, f my son Nicholas, who is amazing at what he does, and he, coaches and trains, and between I think he and his wife, they have 4 black belts in their home. I mean, just phenomenal. You know Nick, 'cause
Yes.
but he was doing a class, and I took it, and I wasn't releasing any weight, and I'm doing, like, kettlebells and all sorts of stuff. "What is going on here?" And he said, "Mom, that's just sad fat." And I was like, "Wait, well, what did you say to your mom?" You know?
Like, okay.
I know, little crunchy. Uh, but then I sat with it, and he wasn't wrong. It was like, "Okay, this is lingering because I have sadness,
Yes.
because I have unforgiveness,
Yes.
because I have emotion that's causing it to hang out,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
not letting go of it."
Yes.
And so I started to let go. I started to release those things, and then I did other things that helped my metabolics and stuff,
Mhm.
but seriously, here's where this really comes into play. Now, in 2021, when we met. Well, when we joined the Neuroencoding
Writing
Institute in
Institute,
April.
yes.
Yeah. 2 weeks later after I joined, then I moved out of my home, and my marriage of 21 years, so on and so forth. Fast forward to the summer, and, that's when my oldest son, Mana, got sick, and, 36-year-old beautiful human, just so much fun. You would just love Mana, and just such a joy to be around. And father of 5, and, happy marriage, adored his wife, and he had never even had a cold or anything. And in July, at the end of July, he got sick, and 2 weeks later, he moved back home to heaven in August. And then from Mana going forward until March of 2022, I had, 8 loved ones, including my father, right? And a cousin who was, like a sibling to me, and just other 8 loved ones, a best friend of 20 years, another best friend of 5 years. Each one of them, including Mana, were unexpected, and they each unexpectedly moved back home to heaven. Like, okay, this person is not here now. This person's not here now. You get the phone call, and I'm like, What?" And here's what I know, and this is why this is so profound, and for your audience, because if I ever had an opportunity or a reason to have sad anything, it was in that season.
Yes.
Just having my Mana not be here was more than enough, right? And here's what's so interesting, and it tells me how healed I am from the things that made me sad. Not from and I wanna be clear, I meant from the things where I gained all that weight and released 135 pounds, because, by the time Mana came around, that situation, I had released the 135 pounds. And so I thought, "Oh my gosh," instantly I'm thinking, and I'm not eating enough to really gain that weight back, but I'm sure not going to the gym all the time, and, all of those things. And I haven't. Like, and in the midst of that, also my divorce was final. So it's like all these moving pieces
Parts, yeah.
came. Yeah. And I say that because it's interesting when you do heal certain things, you do not vibrate at a frequency that allows other things to happen,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so because I had forgiveness, because I had healed in those other areas, then I haven't had those issues come back.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, it it really is the healing that really helped you,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of us, like you had mentioned earlier, you just put it away. You just put the hurt and, you just hid it, and I think a lot of us do that because
Mhm.
we've been taught, we've heard the phrase, "Just suck it up,"
Right.
just
Suck it up, let
just
it go.
tolerate, yeah, just tolerate it because that's just the way things are, you
Mhm.
know, and I think, especially, like, in my culture, Japanese culture, it was like, "Well, you just have that's just the way things are," you
Right.
know? Just, go with what everyone's doing, and I think it's really about learning to heal from those things, to actually
Mm.
feel feelings,
Right.
um, because, we tend to push them away, because
Right.
if we put them away, we won't have to feel them.
Right.
And, of course, emotional eating comes into play with things like that as well, because by eating, you don't have to feel anything either, right? And
Right.
it's a really it's a vicious cycle with that whole eating and all that.
Mm.
But I love what you're telling us because that healing is so, so important. Now, may I ask you, what type of things did you do to heal? Because I'm sure our listeners would love
Oh,
to know
yeah.
what you did.
Well, first and foremost, I acknowledged that those things hurt me. I mean, that is a big thing, like, acknowledging that miscarrying, because technically, I have 3 sons that are in heaven. That's when I say that out loud, that's like that's a thing, right? And it's real. It's
Yes,
like a real part of my life, that I know people that haven't even experienced loss before. They've got their parents, their grandparents, so on and so forth. And not that I want people to experience it, it's just a natural part of life. It is,
Mm,
right?
yes.
But I framed things in a way that and acknowledged, first of all, I acknowledged that these things hurt me. I
Yes.
acknowledged that, like, "Oh gosh, that does hurt." I'll give you an example, and then I'll tell you practically what I did.
Mhm.
But, like, when you said, not stuffing it and not, shoving it away, and I know you know the story, but the Christmas after, so Mana was August, my father was November, okay? And then there's December, and so I'm at Costco, and, because I took you to Costco, so you know how fun Costco is, but I'm at Costco, and I've got the thing, and I'm doing Christmas shopping because I have to do that. I've got, 9 grandchildren, and I've got children, and and I'm like, "Well, everybody needs a Christmas. We've had a sucky year," you know? And so I'm there, and I'm just chunking stuff in the carts, and I look, and there's a jacket that's like a Carhartt jacket, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that would look so great on Mana." Put it in the cart. My father loved dark chocolate, like, it was so funny when you brought me a box of See's candy because that was, like, my dad's thing. It was his thing. So but he loved dark chocolate, so you know, um I, like, see those what are those things, Lindell?
Oh, the lint, those balls,
Yes,
right? Yes.
yes,
Mhm.
and they have the dark chocolate with the
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
they're divine, and so I kn and you're a chocolate snob, so I know. But then I put that in the cart. Then I'm standing there, and I realize, "Oh my gosh, Mana's not here and my dad's not here." So as I put the coat back, I just instantly start to weep. It's like there's no stopping it. And it's not loud, and it's not like but it's a flood, but I'm not, like, you don't hear me, and it would have been okay if you did, but I'm just giving you context. And I'm standing where all the clothes are at, so if you've ever been to Costco, I mean, you have, so, they're all on these big tables. Like, have to buy a T-shirt because I don't have anything to wipe my nose with, and I have to wipe my face, and I'm like, "Give me that shirt." I'm like, "Seriously?" But this is my point.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking to put the chocolate back, I didn't stuff it, I didn't stop it, I just let it go. And it didn't matter to me. If anybody would have stopped to say anything to me, I would have received their, whatever they would have given to me, love or kindness.
Mhm.
But that's really important to me. So that was one thing that I just allowed. But in the midst of all of that, there are many things neurostrategy wise, right? That that have been a blessing to me. The first thing that I did was I always, and I use that word deliberately, lean on the lens of gratitude. So, one of the things that I did, and I know that our mentor, Joseph McClendon, had suggested this, and it's such a powerful thing, is I write in a journal that's specific for things I'm grateful for. And I'm grateful, I will say this, as I brushed my teeth before I climbed on here with you, I used my Melaleuca cinnamon essential oil toothpaste, and you guys know that. I'm so grateful for that because when we were kids, I remember they had those little toothpicks that were soaked in cinnamon oil that were in, like, it was almost like the Chinese paper, and they were like a treat, and you would just chew them till they were like splinters, but they were and just suck the I'm serious. So, it's like when I'm brushing my teeth, it's instantly like that. I love it.
Right.
When
Right.
I walk down my stairs, you've been to my home, so you know, when I walk down my stairs, every step I take, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for my home." Last night, as I'm putting something in one of the bedrooms, I out loud said, I was very conscious of it, "Ah, gosh, I just love my home," you know? And so what that does is it reminds me of all my blessings, right? Because
Exactly.
it's easy to go down
Oh,
that,
yeah, the other
"Oh, well,
way.
my life sucks,"
Oh, yeah. So easy.
right?
And we've been there before, and it's not a fun place.
No, I mean, and getting yourself out of, because when I work with women, I work with women who have had a season or seasons of suck,
Right.
create juicy, succulent lives as
Yes,
opposed to just sitting stuck in the suck. You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like, who
exactly.
wants that? So
No.
what's interesting though, I and that was one of the things. One of the other things though was this, and this was one of the biggest things that has shifted my life,
Yeah,
is that I did, the stop technique as we would call it, right?
yes,
Multiple times. The way that it works is you imagine, the just
we're
something awful or something sucky, and then in the midst of feeling it, you look up and smile as big as you can and yell, "Stop,"
yep,
and change your state as much as you can if you're in a position to jump up, if you're whatever, and then when you do that, it creates a scotoma, a
mhm,
vacuum in your life,
mhm,
and wide open, and what you do with that is you fill that with amazing things and statements or things that are accurate
yeah,
to your life, things that you're grateful for. So I believe the words "I am" are powerful, right?
right, mhm,
Burning bush, Moses, God, I
yes,
am, right? That I am, very powerful. And so I would even say, I am unshakable. I am anchored. I am magnetic. I mean, whatever it is that's going to shift, I am joy.
yes,
I am filled with purpose and peace. And and I would say, I am safe. I am here. I am present. There were things that were very important for me to say out loud. So what would happen is this, and this is what's crazy, and it's so amazing how this really worked. I would have some of that overwhelming sorrow and grief come up, but because I had conditioned myself with that, there's like a 90-second window and it's kind of like when you're in Hawaii and there's not a cloud in the sky and you're on the beach and all of a sudden a mist of rain goes over you and it's gone. You're like, "How did that happen?" Right? It's
yep,
like that. It's exactly like that.
yep,
I feel like the very depths of that grief. It isn't like I stuff it anywhere. It's like 90 seconds, I can instantly, like, sob or whatever comes up. And, I know even the way that I feel it in my body, right?
yes, mhm,
And then about 90 seconds in, I'm on this joy highway. It's like, it takes me up. I take that exit. I
yep,
don't even but it's things that like, if I'm sorrowful about my dad, like, there's so many things that come up and oh my gosh, my dad called me almost every single day for 35 years. Like, he all of a sudden one day started calling us and then Uber Eats showed up in his world and it's like, "Punani, feel like getting your papa some sushi?" I'm like, because he didn't know how to do the Uber Eats. Thank goodness he didn't know how to do it or he had stacks of food. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, pop," like that kind of thing. But what was interesting is when that stuff comes up and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I miss my dad," or "I miss my boy," or, any of that. I feel it, but it doesn't stay,
yeah,
so my body doesn't feel like it has to protect me,
right,
and then my behavior doesn't feel like it has to back up a reason to
yeah,
create the protection, right? And so then the weight is not a vibrational match to
exactly. I That's beautiful, thank you, and you really you retrained your nervous system for joy and for happiness because, like you said, we can stay in that suck state, forever if we wanted to, and I believe me,
so mhm,
I see so many people in that state, and I
right,
just wanna say, "Let me help you get out of it," right?
right.
But the thing is if they're not ready, you can't do a thing. We know that. But but the fact that you were able to recognize that awareness and use the techniques to get out of it. And like you said, you feel it. It's not like you're diminishing it, you're not ignoring it. You feel it, but you've trained your nervous system to say, "Okay, if I feel it, I can also put in another feeling with that." so that I don't have to be wallowing in it, that I
Right,
can move forward and do the things that I'm supposed to be doing here in this earth.
right. Well, what's interesting is 2 things can be true at the same time, right? Things can be totally sucky.
Yeah,
You can be in absolute agony and pain. I mean, both of your parents are in heaven.
yeah,
You can and I'm sure you miss them dearly. You can be in enormous pain, and let's just say it isn't even death related. How many people that are watching, have lost a job, have gone through divorce or even a breakup? I mean, how do you get through life and not go through a breakup? I mean, unless you're like Ed Milet and you're with your kindergarten sweetheart and and you're married the girl,
yeah.
I mean,
How
but
does that yeah.
right? Yeah,
That's
I mean,
very, very rare.
very rare and how
Yeah,
beautiful that is.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
it's like, how do you do that? So, all these things happen, and my brother, actually, Christopher, just sent me a text yesterday, and he said, "Cindy, this sounds so much like you," and it's funny because you're gonna recognize the statement. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And I would also say, "And because of you." Now, when you hear my story, how could you ever say, "Oh, that happened because of you, Cindy," or "It happened for you?" However, I will say that 2 things that you said earlier caused me to think of this. One of them is that no matter what happens in our life, when we allow God, he will use it for our good. And there's no I mean, you can't ever say, "Okay, well, my babies are gone and, how's that gonna be used for my good?" But from that rubble, something can be built that can create. So when 2 things are true at the same time, yes, it's true that I'm in pain, but all the things that I say in my I am, all the things I use to feel that scotoma, all the blessings I have, everything I'm grateful for, that's equally as true.
it's
I just get to choose which emotion I want to align with.
exactly, exactly, and I think, we do have a choice. It's as hard as it might be.
Mhm.
I mean, it is hard, when you're in that, do I really wanna choose to go for the harder thing, which is to actually take action and not, think about the hurt or the pain or whatever, because it's easier to stay in the pain in some ways.
It
It
is.
is, because I don't have to do anything. All I have to
Right,
do is say, "Hey, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain," right? And then people are gonna be like, "Oh, poor Yayoi, we'll help you,"
right.
right? And you get that attention and you're like, "Well," but the thing is what you're doing is and what they're doing unknowingly is they're advocating for me to stay in that pain because they feel so bad, but the thing is if I don't take that step out of there, I'm never gonna move out of that. So it's like that hamster wheel, like, I always talk about the hamster wheel, but you're on that hamster wheel. You're just going around and around and around, repeating it's like an endless movie, right, that you're watching on repeat of the sucky parts of your life, the pain and all that. Whereas
Right,
if you jumped off of the hamster wheel,
right.
I mean, it's scary, but if you jump off, there might be something else, this whole new world out here that's more fun, that could bring you more joy, or that
Right,
could, even say that, yeah, it was painful, but look at how
mhm,
much joy there is over here.
right, right.
And I know I have these weird analogies, but,
No,
you
I
know,
love it.
but I was thinking, yeah, it's true because we're like, it just reminded me of the movie Metropolis. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Mm-mm.
It was a black and white movie, it's one of these old movies, and it was of, um it was of this world where workers, day in and day out, workers were working going into this big factory, and all they did was work, work, work. Their shift ended, and it was a repeat of that, right? And it just reminded me of that scene in Metropolis where people were just walking towards the buildings, and it was almost like a conveyor belt.
Right,
But it's and I think it's really about interrupting those patterns, and this part
right.
as a neuroencoder, we know about how to interrupt those patterns,
Sure.
and it's not an easy task, but it's also about, your why and why you want to continue doing the things you do. I know for you, you have a mission, and I know you want to accomplish that mission. I have a mission in my life about helping people with especially with the issues with food, but, only because I suffered from all of that, right?
Of
But
course.
I think it's really about finding why your why is so important, finding the purpose, and also, like for me, yeah, I lost both of my parents aren't here, and I remember yesterday I was with a group of people and one woman who is older than me, probably by quite older than me, and she had just lost her mother who was in her 90s, and she was in so much pain, and I could see that, and it just reminded me how it just reminded me of my mom and my dad too, right? And it was a reflect I reflect a little bit, but I was like, "Well, I could go down that rabbit hole and say, 'Poor me, I don't have a mommy and daddy right now,'" right? But I was like, "Nope, can't do that," and it was like, because we've rewired our nervous system to default to our best behavior to be in a better place so that we can function.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and not just function, I would say, and I submit to you so that we
so
can thrive,
yeah,
so that we can live in so much joy, like, it again, you get to choose, and that's the thing, I mean, you get to choose, "How do I really wanna feel right now? What really do is it gonna benefit does it benefit Mana if I'm wah, wah, call the wambulance, if I'm just, like, boohooing?" And I'm not minimizing that, once again,
I know.
when I feel it, I allow it, and
Yes,
that's a big deal to me. I don't and that I say that because everybody who's listening or watching whenever you do, that's so important. I would also say though that, like my why really is during that time, when it was like, golly, I would say probably March, April, May in that 2022 year. I was like literally sitting and I tease and you know this, but if you've ever gone through any seasons of suck, sometimes even taking a shower is a bonus, and it's only a bonus to everybody around you because you finally got your happy booty in the shower. But, baby wipes can be really good friends and other things, right? But I remember in that time frame thinking, I wonder what they all do in heaven anyway. Like, what are they doing up there? Like, are there really streets of gold? Is there, all this stuff? And and then I started thinking, well, what did they do while they were here? Powerful question, right? And I reflected on all the dreams that were left undone that Mana had and that he and Holly had, even in their marriage and things they wanted to do. And since he's not been here, he's already had two of his children graduate from high school. His third one's graduating this year. So it's like, yeah, right. And I think about that. And then I thought about my father, who's close to 90. And you've heard me say this, but I feel like I hit the parent lotto. My dad was just amazing and taught me so many beautiful things. And then I thought about my cousin, and he had a pretty full life, but still, here's the thing. I started to research after that, well, what does anybody do when they're here? And I found statistically that the average is between 92 to 98%, depending upon which research study I read, of the people who come to this planet do not achieve their goals. They do not fulfill their purpose. They do not stay in alignment with their assignment and walk out whatever God has purposed them to do. They don't do it because why? Yep, because they're freaking afraid.
yeah,
That's it. Because they're afraid. And we know, and what are those fears? We know, okay, procrastination, hesitation,
hesitation, fear, failure,
success,
fears.
fear of failure,
Yeah,
imposter syndrome, self-doubt, self-loathing, stress, overwhelm, and fear of rejection.
yep,
And I say and abandonment. So there's
yeah,
10. Toxic
yeah,
tribe. As JT calls it, the toxic tribe, our friend
yeah,
and brother in neuroencoding. And I thought, well, that's not acceptable because here's the real thing. Let's put it into real numbers. Out of 8 billion people on the planet, 7,840,000,000 people suck at it. They don't. They are going to leave this planet
yep,
because they didn't do what they came here to do, right?
yep,
Because they were afraid. And they could be afraid because their 3rd grade teacher said something unresourceful
sure,
to them, and then they're stuck, right?
yes,
Or any of the things that have happened. I have a friend who, had his best friend and his girlfriend in high school cheated, with each other, and he never dated after that, and he's in his 50s, and
Oh,
right? Heartbreaking, and yet,
yeah,
it's like, "Yo, bro," I mean, it's you get stuck, right?
yeah.
What that means is in a room of 100 people, only you and I would pull it off because 98 of them wouldn't. Right? Because
I'm
98
sorry. I'm gonna be the one, I'm
you
gonna pull
are,
it
you're right there with me, girl.
because,
But
hello,
yes.
it's just a personality thing too, I'm like, "Hey, if somebody tells me I can't do it, I'm gonna do it." So,
Yeah, because if you
um,
can't, you must, right?
yeah,
But
and
that's not acceptable to me.
no, no, it shouldn't be because every person alive should is their human right to be happy and to smile and to bring that joy. When you smile, you have that. I mean, yes, you release endorphins that are happy hormones and all of this, but when you smile and feel happy, your heart opens up.
Mhm,
And when that heart opens up and you can be in that state, it's such a beautiful state to be in. And everyone can achieve that in one way or another.
mhm.
And I just feel like it's our mission to kind of help people to get to that place.
Yeah. Well, when you said that your heart opens up, it reminds me of one of the other things that I've done that's really, really important is and you know me, I have some of the coolest experiences with my loved ones who aren't here anymore,
Yeah.
and it's a very present, everyday occurrence for me, and I submit to anybody who's listening that when you do some of the things that we've suggested, it puts you in a place where vibrationally, because we're all electric, right?
Yes.
And and and, here we are electric, here's magnetic, right? You know, and when your heart is open to love and to other things instead of expectant of trauma and heartache and betrayal, etcetera,
Yes.
here's it's very intentional. I work super hard at seeing things through the lens of my heart and not the lens of my wounds.
Yes.
And when you get to a place where you're able to function, it doesn't happen overnight, but just catch yourself. Catch yourself when you mistrust or when there's something that pops up or you have a snarky something or you said it earlier, that's just the way it is. It's always going to be like that, that kind of thing. Catch yourself and see what glasses you're looking through. What lens am I using to see this? What lens am I using to interact with my child, with my mate, with the cashier at the grocery store, with the Zoom audience? Where am I? Because when you're very present and very aware of that, magical, amazing, beautiful, some people would say miraculous things are available to you because you're in a frequency that you're able to recognize them.
Yes.
Because chances are they're always there.
Yes.
You're just not there.
Yeah. We're just not seeing it is what it
Mhm.
is. Yeah. And it's true. I love how the analogy you're using of the lenses or the glasses because we have this set of glasses that we've always worn since childhood or through that was created through our own experiences.
Right.
But the thing is, there's another way of seeing things that are outside of us. And
Mhm.
sometimes it just helps to just step out a little bit and to use that different lens. And I love how you said, through the lens of your heart, because I'm a firm believer. Well, I love working with heart coherence
Yep.
and really being in touch with your heart because I
Mhm.
think we tend to put it away and people are like, "Oh, that's so woo woo," or "That's so mushy," and all that. And they say that's not cool. But you know what? No, there's a reason you have a heart. There's a reason
Hello.
there's a reason people say look through the lens of your heart because
Mhm.
that's where we feel many things. We feel joy, we feel sadness, but it is through this thing that we have here. And I think it's really to recognize that and to honor it and honor the life that we were given as well.
Right. Well, here's the thing, like, so you know that one of the if not the first thing that's formed in a fetus is the brain. There's a physical brain, the neurons that all go there. There's a brain in your heart.
Yes.
So we technically have 3 brains, this one, and the one in your gut,
Yeah.
right? And those are the things that have to align. And,
Yes.
without going down the nerd trail, which you and I would have so much fun doing, and we could go for another hour,
Yes.
but there's a scripture that says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Yes.
It's interesting because the moment because of the Heart Math Institute, because of heart coherence, the
Yes.
moment that I actually learned there's a brain in your heart, that scripture became literal to me.
Yes.
And so when I talk about and you're a photographer, so I know you love the lens analogy too, but when I talk about that through the lens of my heart, it's
Yes.
literal to me. Like,
Yes.
what am I thinking in here? Because as I think, so I feel, as I feel, so I do, as I do, so I have, right? You and I,
Yes.
thank
Yep.
you, Joseph McClendon the
Yes.
third. Think, feel,
Yes.
do,
Did you
have.
have?
And
Yes.
right. And if we so let's apply that to the weight release or
Mhm.
and to body,
Yes.
because if I have a body that has bonus body on it of 30, 40, 50
Right.
pounds, 100 pounds, whatever, right? And if I have that, okay, well, what did I do to have that? Let's work our way back. What was I feeling,
Exactly. Yes.
right, to do that? And I would say, what was I thinking in here? And
Yes.
what was I thinking here to
Yep.
feel it,
Did
to
that.
do that,
Mhm.
to have that?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, then all I have to do is intercept those thoughts so that
Yes.
I don't have those feelings, so I don't do the thing, so that I don't have the result. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. I
That's
mean, it sounds simple. Uh,
simple, not easy,
yes,
right?
it's not easy. Yes, exactly. And, I think, gosh, this is been such a great conversation. I mean, yes, I know we can go on for hours talking about this, but I think, yeah, our readers and our viewers and our listeners might be like, okay, we got it. So at this point, I
We're
think we
done.
yeah. I mean, hey, welcome Cindy back for another episode where we can talk a little bit more about these things. As you can see, we have a great energy going on between us. And I think, this has been a valuable conversation. And I think, many of our listeners, my listeners, um, and the audience can gain so much from just one of these things. And if it's if they're going to take away one thing, what would you want them to take away?
Hmm. I would say this, and it's I think being aware and acknowledging. You and I both do the mirror
Yes. Oh, yes.
exercises and the I am statements that I had that I shared. There's much more than what I shared, but looking in the mirror and looking in your eyes, right?
Yes.
There was a time when I just had one of those waves of sorrow and grief come over me, and I was like, I could feel it to the depths of my everything. And I forced myself, pulled over, or was in the car, pulled over, forced myself to uh look and pull down the mirror and do the mirror exercise. Here's what happened. I was so it was wild because when that happened, I could see my pain to the point where I was like, "Oh my gosh." And instantly I loved me so much. I'm like, "Oh my word, you've been through a lot." So I think the biggest thing that I would say is acknowledge and be aware of what a miraculous, amazing human being you are. That wherever you're at in your life right now, you're here. Every
Yes.
single thing you've been through, you kicked butt. You're here. You made it to this point, and you'll make it today, and you'll make it tomorrow. And it really boils down to you loving you enough to just be insanely, wildly, and crazy in love with yourself. That you're just amazing and you're divine and you were created. God created you on purpose. There isn't anybody else on the planet that is like you. No fingerprints are the same. No DNA is exactly identically the same. you came in with that and walk it out every single day, figure out who you are, why you're here, and then
Yes.
what you're gonna do about it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. That was such a powerful takeaway that, I mean, please, listen to what Cindy is saying because that was so much power in that. And, you know, if something stuck with you, replay it in your mind and say, this is what I heard. You know what? Maybe there is something to this. And re-listen to this episode. You can fast forward to the parts that you don't, that don't resonate with you. But just take away that we are here. We are here. We're supposed to be here. And we have a mission to accomplish. And
100%.
that mission comes from loving yourself. And I think the biggest mission is really about self love that we tend to forget. And as human beings in society tells us, oh, you're being selfish if you love yourself. No, you're not. I just want to say, no, you're not.
Right.
And, you know, um, because there's a reason that we are here
Mhm.
and we were given this life. So anyway, on that note, I don't want to get too serious, but listen, everyone, you know, live your life. Start doing the mirror exercise. Start loving on yourself because that's going to open up a whole world for you. And that'll help you to see things through the lens of your heart, like Cindy had mentioned. So thank you everyone for listening to this episode. And thank you, Cindy, for being here.
Thank you.
And if you're curious about any more of this work, follow me on my Brain to Belly community. I have a Facebook page. I'm also um, on other platforms where you can find me. And please remember that the comment, I'll start on Monday, you could say that. You could say, I'll start on Monday. Start on Monday, and years can go by. Don't let that steal your joy. Don't let that steal you, and don't be like Cindy said, don't be like the 90% or the 99%, 98% that aren't going to realize their dreams. So please remember that it doesn't have to be on a Monday. You can just start now. So on that note, I just want to say thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.